Greetings, warlords. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show on about the Saga skirmish game from the studio Tomahawk.
Thursday, awesome. Nice work.
So yeah, we're clocking in here at Kansas City today, and we're fortunate enough to take a little bit of the time of the new Ironman champion, a stranger to the field, new guy. They really climbed to the top pretty quick. Joe Rodge's here.
Oh, Joe Rodge, Stephen.
So Joe, you came down here, right? You came up from the Northland and talk to us a little bit about what we did here today.
Yeah, so this was a gaming odyssey. Started a few days ago. Came down to St. Louis on my own, about 7 hours. Hung out with some bros there. Spent the night, then headed over to Kansas City. Stayed with Charles. Big thanks to Charles for hooking me up. The place to stay. We got a mega battle in. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that in a separate video. But on the Saturday here, we kicked off the Kansas City Ironman. So
Second annual.
So Monty came down last year. There was some pressure on me put upon by him to perform here. So I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. But I think we'll just jump to the chase here. You already said I was the winner, but you were my top table opponent.
You were pretty close. You know, Monty might have put some pressure on you, but we had a little pressure here in Kansas City. I don't know if you want to show off your nice. This is an awful fine drinking cup here, and really deserves to be in the hands of a nice Kansas City player someday, or so we thought. But we had a little bit of surprise and well due. Entered into the last rounds. The way the format worked was you get 3 points for a win, 1 additional point for killing a warlord, 1 additional point if you had more than 20 massacre points. Mm-hmm. So coming into the last round, I did pretty good. Yeah. Coming in with 10 points. So I met Joe Rodge.
You were looking pretty darn good there. So I had very tough games against Stephen and Matt. So I was down at a miserable 7 points. So I knew it's somewhere in the back of my mind that I had to somehow go all out. And if Stephen could somehow, just force it to a stalemate or something, that was good enough for a win for him. But I didn't really, was that in your mind at all? It didn't feel like at any point you really were trying to stall it out or try to make it even. It seemed like you were.
Well, we should preface it that again, the Ironman format, we sit down at each table. You don't know what army you're going to play. And when you find your table, you still don't know. You have to roll, and it's a 50-50. Joe and I here played Greek cities and Macedonians. Mm-hmm. I really wanted Macedonians. Boy, I wanted Macedonians. So I think the Greek city board is pretty cool, but I feel like sometimes to do well with it, you need to have really hand-picked every little part that you want on that board. And the list we got today, not something I was used to trying out with them before. We had 4 points of warriors, Athenians, 1 point of levy, bow levy, and a unit of mounted warriors. So it was a little bit of an unusual list, and we were playing, what are we calling this one here? Overrun. Here, we'll hold her up there for a second. Overrun, we deploy like this, diagonal deployment there.
That's right.
Essentially a kill points sort of game, but you have to be outside of your deployment zone at the end, or you're done. And
that's about it. Apart from a really slow start, 3 dice for both players, and then 5 dice for both players. So we kind of got to inch forward there. But like you're saying, Ironman, not only are you getting an interesting faction you haven't played before probably, but they're interesting builds to kind of make it even somewhat. Mm-hmm. So how much testing goes into these matchups?
Sometimes they're based on ones that we've already been playing in-house, and when we have the time, we like to sit down and try to suss them out. But occasionally they are formed kind of the day of, just by we got the right models to sit on the table down to. So there's a little bit of a wild card with that sometimes. Some of these ones where we have a concern about it being a mismatch or something, we'll drill it on the side. A good example is that we originally had Anglo-Saxons versus Vikings on there too. And people know my own success with Vikings in the past, but that's a pretty high difficulty play. And we figured Scots and Anglo-Saxons was a much more even fight to square up there too. And truth be told, even though I didn't love the list that I had with Greek cities and Macedonians they're not a mismatch by any means or anything like that. So.
So we stepped into it. There's a question from the audience from Charles. He's wondering why the levy didn't go in to the field there in the middle of your deployment zone.
Right. Well, again, this scenario is one where you have to get out and across the other side to be able to try to get stuff going. And I didn't generally think I was going to lose basically the whole unit in one go on turn 2. So that really factors into it. I was hoping to be a little bit more dynamic. A lot of people, I never even thought about bow levy before with Greek cities. I even had to double check because I wasn't sure that they could take them and stuff in that case.
2 games already. Nobody knows.
But people might recall, I think it's called Without Courage is what allows you to take a levy unit with them and activate them fatigue free for a move, and it can go through your own units. So I was hoping to get out ahead of my levy, probably on turn 2 or 3, and then be able to skate through my lines for. You had a lot of mounted guys on there too that would have been nice targets for them, and I was hoping that if they had gotten to shoot a second time in the game, that perhaps maybe some of those would have been a good target. So, as far as getting put down in terrain, you're kind of fighting uphill a little bit at the beginning, and sometimes setting out an easy soft target can be nice to try to draw and funnel your opponent to that zone, able to follow up and get the charge afterwards. Now, if they've handpicked it, right, and we get the exchange that we were planning for, it's not that big a deal, but. In this case, Joe had a beautiful play, right?
So first turn, we just kind of shuffled up, didn't even.
We were tripping over our own feet even on the first one.
Just kind of moved up a little bit. Second turn, I'm already in range. The levy missiles start coming in.
Really, my highlight was turn 1. I shot 5 Sarissa guys off, I think.
Yep. So I've only got on the Macedonian side, I got 2 units of 12 Sarissa warriors, 8 cavalry. Waiting back in the wings, 4 Hearthguard mounted. So those were warrior cavalry. Hearthguard cavalry, and then a unit of 8 javelin guys and javelin warriors. So you do these volleys here, and then I go on to a play. I'm going to let you describe it because I'm going to be talking. This is like a dream saga movie, pretty much.
It was a wonderful. It was a
everything
move.
Just worked out, and it. You could do that 10 times and it would fail 10 times horribly.
Right.
But this time it went through. So this really set the tone then.
Sure, definitely. So he starts out honestly about L away or so, and there's a pretty dense Macedonian line. Let me line my hands up here. Somewhere back here was one of the javelin units or so. We had a nice regular move. We had a nice fatigue-free move right afterwards.
Seize the initiative,
Seize the initiative down there, too, to land into a charge on those levy units, or the levy unit that had a fatigue, because I shot twice. Javelin guys hit. Everyone loves auto hits. You had 2 extra attack dice.
Faultless Mastery.
Faultless Mastery there inside there, too.
That was 10 auto hits.
Yep. I saved one of those.
Did me a favor there.
I saved one on that.
Still could have went awry based off that.
And then it also came down to, I had these 8 mounted warriors, and I had to say to myself, what am I doing with these? Because there's not a single ability on the Greek board that can use, that the Macedonian, the Greek cavalry can even use. So there wasn't any sort of play or unique, like, alpha strike move or anything else. So I split them into 2 4-packs, and I kind of tucked them in the back. Wasn't expecting him to be crossing that board immediately with those guys. Yeah. And as a result, cleaned up the levy. We got our free shot right afterwards in range with one of those units. Yep. Hit the necessary amount, killed the single model, dropped a Saga dice there. Had originally dropped a Saga dice with the levy. Moved into terrain right?
Field,
threw another fatigued volley into the other one. Only got 1 hit there. That's all he needed. Took it. So in that 1 round, we lost 3 Saga dice on my end.
7 to 4.
That was. I won't say that's all she wrote because it was the start of the game, and you always have to have another way to come up. But it became very clear that I needed some more Saga dice to continue because I didn't get any rares except for the initial opening turn on the 3, and I hadn't tucked that on oracles. So there was no more dice for me the rest of the game, pretty much. So rolling out of there with 5. But you were starting only at
So
or something
what happened
like
then
that,
looked really great. On your turn, you plowed, so you had 3 huge phalanxes, and you just plowed one of them in there because they're fatigued javelin guys. You don't need any abilities to finish them off. And I think that was a smart move. I was kind of half thinking you'd try to just plow the horses in there or something. But it wasn't going to work. Yeah, it wasn't going to work.
In retrospect, maybe I should have done something with those horses, right? But,
and so we talked about it, trying to learn from it. It's like they didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
You weren't planning to do really anything with them.
No. They could have been tucked way back in the corner. I just knew that at a certain point I wanted to be within 2 activations of getting some type of combat in. And so naturally, let's move my hands to the thing. I want to put them way down in the corners of the table would be perfect. But I had kept everything kind of succinct on that first turn, hoping that maybe we'd something to loose up later on. All the cavalry units that he had, I was hoping that at some point, heck, I don't even know. There's no move. Like I said, that you're just coming in with raw Saga on those guys. And so you hope for there being a point where you can toss those guys in, put an extra fatigue on, and then get some sort of combat efficiency out of it once those guys were already goofed off. Because the Greek city board does not have very many attack dice or ways to generate attack dice.
2-die abilities too.
Yep.
So
they all take a lot of dice. So, and when you're down to 5 Saga dice, you're not looking to do those unless you got lucky. 4,
but after you took out those warriors, I was actually down to 5 because of my big blocks, and then you had the phalanx in the field or whatever. They're fatigued up. This is the turn to end it, to finish it, and then that's when the columns come out. And then now we got to. It was looking so beautiful, like a foregone conclusion. But then at that point, my fatigue-free abilities are off the table. Some of the tricks and stuff I can use are gone. So at that point, it's just kind of
poking. Commons, he means in this case. Commons and columns at the same time. So
that really slowed it down then, and kind of we had a ball game again.
Yeah, I said, all right, this is my turn to breathe for a second.
Yeah, so I poked a little bit. You had Hespus Coily up, but you didn't have the other defensive one.
Right, didn't get I kept rolling only 1 uncommon per turn. And you kind of need a little bit more than that.
So I went, since that was up, I just charged in with my 12 block. And then I know you had the rare on the upper right there. So I'm like, well, if you can feel the need to use it now before you can get the fatigue bonus ability, I'm like, this is a good time. And then we kind of bounced back and forth. And then it went to you. And I think, that became telling just the lack of dice.
Yeah, it was. There's no momentum because you can toss... You can toss a big 10. And the way I had set up the phalanxes to try to get some combat efficiency was 10, 11, 11 into 3 bigger groups. The other appeal in that is that your battle line, when you're at 10 and higher, counts as 2 per. And so I figured I could keep my stuff consolidated a little bit. But without the dice to go attack, we postured up. Actually, my guys looked very offensive. We walked all the way to the front of the Macedonians and stood there for a second with our defensive abilities.
Well, I think
one defensive
You did go in with 1 charge.
And killed 2 guys, I believe.
Well, that one was 0, I believe.
Okay, right.
After the closing ranks, unbending, unbreaking.
Yep.
And so you moved the other phalanx over. You just didn't have enough dice to do everything. So there's 3 fatigued phalanxes. All you had in defense was the upper left, the homer, the -1 to hit.
I don't think I like that one.
No,
I don't think I like that.
We talked a little bit about that.
It was more out of necessity because at a certain point you have nowhere else to put your common unless you want to make another move and you're already fatigued. You don't really want to. So
at that point, I was able to load up some stuff. Conquers the World, great for Raw Saga. Seize the Initiative, great for Raw Saga. I got my Warlord in, and you just closing ranks. Sometimes you weren't closing ranks when it thought it made sense, but you just...
At a certain point, I didn't want to close ranks anymore. I just almost want to roll and let the odds of having those save 1 out of 10 rolls earlier... You hope that flips later on, and now it's on you, buddy. It's on you instead. So honestly, you know that your game is going pretty poor when your plan is to get lucky. And that was my plan. Probably turn 3 on was I hope I get lucky on one of these, and that it's going to give me some momentum to try to pick up and even still maybe clog the center. I don't know. He was still going to be able to move the bulk of his force away and not even engage if he didn't want to. So this could have been a really low-scoring game also, as we just slap hands while we're going down the
Just,
line and then go
two
park
galaxy,
ourselves.
bouncing
just
off each
flying
other,
right on the other
moving
side.
down.
But I think this scenario, even if the Greeks were doing a better performance, Macedonians have a lot of appeal, I think, for a scenario when you need to close a lot of distance, when you need to get across the table. Just having a pretty accessible, fatigue-free move that goes for two guys, that goes a long way for sure.
Definitely.
Because between that and Conquerors of the World, there was no fatigue showing up on your army pretty much.
It's pretty much clean.
And when you got no combat abilities and you're trying to raw saga, boy, you're planning on you're planning on some fatigue. So
and I will say my dice were pretty hot at this point because I needed lots of 4s to do damage.
The little red dice, they're hot ones.
And they were delivering, and yours were not delivering. So it was a battle of the 4s.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't a typical Greek game because both of those phalanxes were obliterated.
Yeah.
I've gone from 10 or 11 guys down to one was gone and one had one.
Yeah.
So it definitely had to be a hot.
And that basically went there in one round with each one of them. Yeah. So they were getting smoked with each engagement.
Charge, 2 phalanx charge, and another phalanx charge to clean up. So at that point, you just had 2 dice. It was turn 5 already.
And so he's talking about playing to the draw and whether that was an idea. It was for sure. But to draw on this type of scenario is pretty difficult because you're needing to come within a 2-point spread, basically. I wasn't going to be able to pull that up. But I described the ways that you score in your rounds in this. 3 points for your win, 1 point for the Warlord, 1 point for those 20 kill points. All I wanted to try to do is get that Warlord away from him. And I knew that there's no real way to do it because he could have sacrificed any of the cavalry. Exactly. And even if the cavalry went and died on the other line, that's not that bad of a spread. You still had a higher spread in kill points. You could have just eat the divide on there too. In retrospect, I should have bubble wrapped the Warlord.
Would have
bubble wrapped the Warlord.
Close off.
And so, I started getting confused too because I started thinking that people were telling us that you actually just have to be outside of your deployment zone and not past the center line. And then I started thinking about a bunch of stuff, and you know how it goes down there, wringing out the washcloth at that point, and there's not as much in there. So I was hoping to do that because, like I said, I was walking in with 10, he was walking in with 7. And then we had Matt here too, who's up pretty high also. And if I wasn't going to win it, hoping to
keep it in the
KC
guy.
Yeah, exactly. Or win it once for Kansas City in that case. But some guys have a good year, some guys, and you're on a year right now, bud.
I'm on a high. But it did come down to the last die rolls, and even before then, a couple rares in the last one.
Yeah,
a lot of plenty of abilities between Pride of the Companions, Conquerors of the World. Some other things, seize the initiative, able to get in there fatigue-free, stay fatigue-free, and the Heartsguard were able to finish off the Warlord who scampered. And then...
Because I'm trying to think, I probably only rolled, 17 Saga dice the whole game or something like that.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I barely was rolling any dice. I didn't get any rares in there, too, So
at that point, somehow, killed enough. I got the bonus points, got the Warlord... Got the win, I guess. So
that
just
spread there.
Eked out Matt a little bit and somehow stopped you from my Warlord. And there was a point there he was exhausted.
Well,
that would have popped. It's like a big.
You had that extra Heartsguard movement on there. And I was really hoping that guy wasn't going to go there just because if I could have popped that Warlord, just get him out.
Really glad
the rest of the game would be less relevant to me almost. Just get one thing out of there.
I put that die there. That was the last die to be placed.
I know it. I thought,
they're going to be out of position, so I'm not sure what's going on here. I'll put the die there, and it was critical after seeing what happened.
Yep.
Bringing some heat back. So, Steven, as always,
absolutely
was a great game.
Thanks for coming down to Kansas City, and to all other viewers. Again, Kansas City, very centralized in the United States, an excellent group of players all over the country. We got a lot of boys in the South, a lot of Texans and other boys out there that I know we would love to try to combine. I'd love to see some of these solid Northern players and stuff square up with some of the excellent Houston club players and everyone else. It's always been kind of a dream then. And over the next year, really, we really want to be able to turn Kansas City into a little bit more of a Saga hub. A lot of the good Saga games and good tournaments are centralized around the lakes up north or up north too, and that's great for the community of players up there. But there's a surprising amount of Saga players out there that just don't have a group to connect with. And, you know, in general, 8 to 10 hours will get you from Kansas City to a lot of places in the United States.
Definitely.
And it's a lot easier to try to get some Texans up to Kansas City than it is to get out to Chicago or Wisconsin or something else like that too. So
definitely.
Thanks for putting a face to it out here for sure.
Yeah.
Pump them up over time. So
yeah, this format is great. It's really fun running these different war bands. And
what were your first 2 war bands?
so it was Crusaders first for me against Byzantines, and then second one I was Romans against Carthaginians.
Republican Romans.
Yeah,
worth noting because there's the Roman
there was a lot of
war.
Romans.
There was also
I played Byzantine Romans.
3 Roman variants.
So it's pretty dangerous though, because once you play a faction, you're like, all right, I can buy some of these and get them going. But yeah, I had a blast. I know you guys are going to probably do this again.
Oh yeah,
maybe
we're thinking around May. Yeah,
okay.
Around May.
And then, like we said, you guys are interested in doing more events, so I guess stay tuned there. And you know, there might be something this time next year, a little bigger, a little fancier. We'll see. But yeah,
we're hoping to get a 2-day event on the books at some point. And, you know, we're hoping maybe this time next year, replacing this time slot, will possibly be Kansas City 2-day event.
I would love that. I feel like I run a Fimbulwinter. I have a big hand in Adepticon, and I feel like I'm doing all the heavy lifting there, so I'm gonna love that. Yeah, and I can't wait to see what kind of format you guys choose, and any way you can run it, I think is great. But you know, you guys do your own spin on things, so I'm really excited for that. So, all right, well, that's it for this one.
All right,
see you later, folks.
Senior Warlords.
Bye bye.
Saga. If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon, or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.